At work, making America great again. Tweeting yesterday, business looking really good for next year. Will be a great year for companies.
This president is not waiting around. It's a good position to be in heading into 2018.
The president launching a scathing new attack on Twitter this morning. He called that infamous Russian dossier bogus and a pile of garbage.
If the FBI used this dossier in an affidavit in support of a search warrant to spy on the Trump associate, that's a crime.
The United States is sanctioning two it describes as key leaders of North Korea's unlawful weapons programs.
The U.S. military says ISIS has lost 98% of the territory it once held. Half those losses coming since President Trump took office.
What are Hillary Clinton's 2018 New Year's resolutions? Vanity Fair has a few ideas.
Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
Cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
Leland, that was your choice of music, right?
I guess on your first date here, you get whatever you want, right? Okay, that's the way you welcome folks to the couch.
I think that was an official Leland Vitter request, right?
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome to have you.
Awesome to have you.
Lisa as well. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me again.
I mean, Brian, Steve,
she came back after a couple of days.
I was surprised I was allowed through security. I thought there was going to be.
No, you're on a list. It's just not the worst list.
I saw my face in the front desk.
You're on a watch list.
Not the no-fly list yet.
Fortunately, they didn't recognize me in the mornings.
Well, we are glad that you're here. Brian, Steve, and Ainsley, they get a well-deserved vacation this week. So the JV team, not the ISIS JV team, just the regular JV team.
Yes, clarify.
We are self-declared the JV team.
That's right. We are here to inform you, to entertain you, and we're glad that you are here on Fox and Friends. Thanks for joining us.
I guess there's other stuff going on.
There's a little bit of news going on this morning.
Yeah, a lot of big news.
Big news. You know, there's a big investigation we all know about. Bob Mueller looking into so-called Russian connections and all of that. Well, there's a new investigation. It's actually not new at all. It's been going on for an entire year that probably hasn't caught your eye, but it caught ours this morning because of a headline in USA Today. So take a look at this. This is a headline in the USA Today. It says, "The quiet probe into Clinton email investigation could be a landmine for Bob Mueller." Now, this is an investigation that's been going on since January. It was actually started during the transition, before President Trump was inaugurated, by the DOJ, Department of Justice Inspector General. His name is Michael Horowitz. And they're looking at the FBI and Department of Justice review of the Hillary Clinton investigation. So they've talked to Loretta Lynch, they've talked to James Comey, and it's been very exhaustive over the course of a year. The reality is there's a lot of folks, especially who were within the FBI and DOJ, who are concerned about what this report will reveal because it looks at whether or not Hillary Clinton got special treatment during the campaign as to how she handled her email and her private server.
And Pete, what's important about this article as well is Michael Horowitz was one that unearthed the text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and he's also not afraid to mix it up and go after some of these big federal bureaucracies because he was the one that recommended big changes with the ATF after the botched Fast and Furious operation. He's also the one that went after the DEA when they were caught up in the prostitution scandal in Colombia with prostitutes who were paid for by drug cartels there. So he's not been afraid to go after the federal government. He's not been afraid to shine that light and get some clarity there. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he does here and what he unearths.
Yeah. Dare we say we have finally found, perhaps maybe even, an honest man in Washington, and that's where Representative Francis Rooney, one of the very few, I would say, really fine and honest men in Washington, certainly on that list. This is what he had to say.
I would like to see the directors of those agencies purge it and say, look, we've got a lot of great agents, a lot of great lawyers here. Those are the people that I want the American people to see and know the good work's being done, not these people who are kind of the deep state.
Language like that, Congressman, purge the Department of Justice?
Well, I think that Mr. Strzok could be purged, sure.
Of course, referring there to the FBI agent with all of his text messages about a insurance policy against Hillary Clinton. And you noticed that MSNBC anchor, when she came back, the best she could do is take issue with his language, not with his facts.
But isn't that the broader problem here is the fact that the media is not concerned? Can you imagine going back to August 2016, if we had found out and the media had found out that these FBI agents had text messaged about an insurance policy against Hillary Clinton as opposed to President Trump, we would not live this down. Remember how much of a big deal they made out of finding out that a Russia troll farm had funded $100,000 in Facebook ads? I've worked in politics. That is a drop in the bucket. Acting like that somehow swayed the election is insane. But they ran that story as if that was the game changer for the election. Can you imagine how they would cover this if it was over Hillary Clinton instead of President Trump?
Well, you talk about stories you cover that are a game changer. How about the Russia story, which was, well, if you turn on any other channel on this island, it will be Russia, Russia, Russia almost all morning long, which some have led some to believe that maybe that overinflates the influence Russia has had. Well, Samantha Vinograd, she's a national security analyst over at CNN, which the president calls very fake news, had a different take on how you help Russia. Take a listen.
Is a key part of the fair and transparent legal process that defines our democracy. So every time the president tweets against the FBI or tweets against the Department of Justice, he's making the Russians' job a lot easier.
Okay, so when the president tweets about political corruption potentially at the top of the FBI and DOJ, he's helping Russia. But when Democrats say that Russia is behind everything influencing our democracy, they're not overinflating Russia.
Right. No, and who could possibly be upset about helping Russia? Wasn't it Hillary Clinton who had the reset button for Russia back in 2004?
Sure.
Her boss was the one who said, I'm going to have a lot more flexibility after the 2012 election.
Well, they're also the folks that, wasn't it Barack Obama that said to Mitt Romney, the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back? I mean, they have a very conflicted view of Russia, and now that they think Russia, well, they believe, they conspire that Russia colluded with the president to win the election. Now Russia's involved with everything.
Well, also, moving on with Hillary Clinton, so there's this Vanity Fair article, or video rather, that shows staffers.
Favorite
I love
topic.
it. Please, will the book tour continue? I want more.
With champagne, smugly suggesting to Hillary Clinton some New Year's resolutions that perhaps she should invest in. So take a look.
It's time to start working on your sequel to your book, What Happened? What the hell happened?
Get someone on your tech staff to disable autofill on your iPhone so that typing an F doesn't become Form Exploratory Committee for 2020.
Take up a new hobby in the new year. Volunteer work, knitting, improv comedy, literally anything that'll keep you from running again.
To finally put away your James Comey voodoo doll. Now, we all know you think that James Comey cost you the election, and he might have, but so did a handful of other things. It's a year later, and time to move on.
So cheers to you, Hillary Clinton.
Cheers to you, Hillary.
So just so it's clear, these are former Hillary Clinton for president staffers giving a toast to their former candidate. Not as friendly as you might expect from Vanity.
I think it was Mark Twain who said that humor is the good-natured side of truth, right? It wouldn't be funny if everybody wasn't sort of thinking, gee, maybe we want to keep her from doing this again.
No, I've got an idea. How about we ask you guys at home to send us what your New Year's resolutions are for Hillary Clinton? Keep them coming. Send them this way.
friends@foxnews.com. Let us know. What would your resolution be? If you were to hold a flute of champagne and talk to Hillary Clinton, what would you be talking about? Very interesting. Well, there's another story that caught our eye this morning. There's a tree. You know about it, Leland.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the White House that has been there for 200 years.
It's been there for a big, beautiful tree. It's at the South Portico. You often see it when President Trump walks out from the South Portico to get on Marine One. It's right where the press stands.
Sure.
Under the tree. Huge tree. The tree is dying, and Melania Trump, as the First Lady, sort of who oversees the White House grounds, agreed with the National Park Service and ordered the removal of that near 200-year-old tree. And the headline, because it was dying, followed the advice of the groundskeepers at the White House who keep the place absolutely immaculate.
Sure.
And check out all of the headlines. Newsweek, Melania Trump ordering the removal of a near 200-year-old tree from the White House. Wall Street Journal, exclusive, iconic White House tree to be cut down. There's another way to look at this. Imagine if Melania Trump saves tree that then falls over and wipes out White House press corps.
Well, that was what you pointed out. That's where the White House press corps stands. So she's actually doing them a favor so that
Also, if you
Something
read those
bad doesn't
headlines, they're making it seem like Melania Trump was walking around. It's like, cut that down. That one. I mean, this is as ridiculous as it gets with when she was going to Hurricane Harvey to go meet with the victims and check out the damage. And she had a change of shoes. She was wearing heels simply to the plane and then changed shoes when she got there. But there was this uproar about how it was distasteful for her to be in high heels. All this ridiculous. And newsflash, ask any woman in America, and Jillian as well, who we'll talk to in a second, ask any woman across the country. We all bring a change of shoes. These are props. I wear flats every day of my life. I don't wear heels. So the coverage was just insane.
Well, the bias is clear
and unfair.
And it's exposed. It's been so for a long time. So, yep, they're removing a tree. Not a big, but it was planted by Andrew Jackson, so that's what's very cool. It's 200 years old. It's got a lot of history.
Beautiful tree.
But they've apparently the upkeep has been terrible on it. They've poured cement into it. They've done terrible things over the years. It's going to die. You got to take it down, or it's going to fall in the White House.
I think they're actually going to try to get some of the seedlings and something from this tree, and actually try to replant it so it will.
They're going to do something thoughtful, Leland.
But you guys,
no, they're cutting it down and they're adding to our carbon footprint.
Right.
Melania
Trump doesn't get the credit for that part, though. That's the National Park Service that's doing that.
Now the media is going to have to deal with the tree planted by President Trump, a legacy that will live on. Now to Jillian Mealy for today's news.
I don't know. I wear heels every second of every day. I don't know what you're
Jillian's
talking
a better
about.
woman than I am.
You're on the golf course.
Yes, even when I'm golfing. Just kidding. No, but I am with you on that 100%. All right, let's get you caught up on your headlines on this Wednesday morning. A plane well on its way across the world forced to turn around when a passenger gets on the wrong plane. Pilots flying back to Los Angeles 4 hours into the 11-hour journey to Tokyo. Model Chrissy Teigen and her husband, singer John Legend, were on board, documenting the trip on Twitter, writing, "They keep saying the person had a United ticket. We are on ANA." So basically, the boarding pass scanner is just a bedupe machine that makes bedupe noises that register to nowhere. Teigen later tweeted that 4 people were detained. Airport police say everything's been straightened out, but I'm sure there were a lot of angry people. Panicked shoppers sent running for their lives after gunshots ring out right inside of a Memphis mall. Jeez, at least 3 people were shot after some sort of fight. They should all be okay. 4 people were taken into custody. Final preparations now underway for New York City's iconic New Year celebration. Today, nearly 3,000 Waterford crystals will be placed on the famous Times Square ball. New York City police also preparing with unprecedented security to keep 1 million spectators safe. Thousands of officers will patrol hotels, monitor truck rentals, and close parking garages. The city has had 2 terror attacks since Halloween. That's a look at your headlines. I will send it back to you guys.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian. All right. A lot of new evidence coming out of North Korea that they could be prepping for biological warfare. Remember that escaped soldier from the rogue regime? Well, now we're hearing he may be immune to anthrax, what that could mean.
I'm not immune to anthrax, that's for sure. Something going on there. Plus, a United passenger says the airline gave her seat away to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee. This morning, the Democrat responds. She says,
oh, well, remember that North Korean soldier who defected to the South? He may be able to prove the rogue regime is preparing for biological warfare.
That's right. The man reportedly has antibodies to anthrax, spurring concerns that the deadly bacteria has been weaponized.
All right, here to explain, Director of Defense Studies at the Center for the National Interest, Harry Kazianis. Harry, good to see you. What do you make of this? Probably nothing good.
Well, I guess when it comes to North Korea, I'm pretty much out of shock these days. There's nothing that the Hermit Kingdom does that surprises me anymore. The interesting thing about this, there's only a few ways that this soldier could have gotten anthrax antibodies in his system. One possibility, if he worked on a farm, it would be rare, but if he came in contact with an animal that had anthrax, that's possible how he might have got the antibodies, overcame an infection. He could have been immunized against anthrax, but that doesn't make much sense because the United States or South Korea doesn't have anthrax weapons. Those have been banned since the 1970s. So the other possibility, which is I think much more intriguing, is that he was maybe somehow part of, the North Korean biological weapons program, could have become accidentally infected. There's just a lot of mystery in this that we just don't know.
But Harry, the South Korean military they don't have an anthrax vaccine. So, I mean, if you look at it at its face, could they not be involved in biological warfare, making sure their folks are not infected by it, and they could use it potentially in a conflict?
this is the real scary thing. You know, we've spent really, months and years talking about North Korea's nuclear weapons, but we don't talk that much about North Korea's other weapons of mass destruction. We have to remember the North Koreans have potentially as much as 5,000 tons of chemical weapons. We're pretty sure they have a biological weapons program. Actually, on Monday, when the national security strategy came out, it pretty much said that North Korea had a biological weapons program. It sort of took the facade off that as if it hadn't existed. It seems like it's a very real thing at this point. And in a war, when you put all three of those things together, millions of people could die. So it's very scary.
Yeah, and they already have the delivery systems certainly for the chemical weapons, the VX and the sarin gas. They have all those artillery shells just on their other side, the north side of the DMZ, to rain down on Seoul. What about the U.S. troops? 28,000 U.S. troops there in South Korea. Their families there as well. Millions of American expats there. Any protection they have against either the chemical threat or the biological threat?
Not much, to be honest with you. I mean, we have different suits that our military can put on to protect themselves, but they get very hot, very sticky. You can't really have them on for a long period of time. So, this is really a challenge that, I think we keep